My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on the show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, welcome back. Today, zooming in from beautiful Surfside, Florida, which is part of Miami Beach, and I was just there not that long ago. We've got a very accomplished, relatively new real estate entrepreneur. Shea Schneider has a lot of experience kind of on both sides of things. These days, he's focusing a lot on industrial, kind of flex industrial type space, commercial properties. And in the past, he worked on the other side. He had a wholesale business, closeout liquidation type business. So he kind of understands things from both sides of the fence there. So Shea, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Dave.
My pleasure. So Shea, give us an idea of what your real estate investing business looks like today as of almost the very end of 2024. What do you guys have in the portfolio?
Sure. Really exciting times for us. We were very busy the past year. I know it's hard to believe, but the past year we were focusing a lot on undervalued strip retail centers here in the state of Florida.
Okay. Strip malls. Like that's what it comes to my brain.
Strip malls, mom and pop. So not your big anchor tenants like a Walgreens or a CVS or Publix, more like your mom and pop centers where, we like to look at centers that are undervalued. What I mean by that is you have, owners, operators that own those properties for quite some time. Rents, when they were running them 10, 15 years ago, they didn't need to be, where they are for the numbers to work. And we go in there normally and we find a deal at a good cost basis. That's the most key factors, our cost basis. And then we go look to see where the rents currently are and where they can be. Mm-hmm. What is the necessary CapEx to add value to the property to give it a more of a 2024 feel to pitch it to your tenant of the future. And we're looking anywhere in the state that's high growing. We look at medium incomes. We look at traffic counts. We look at location of centers. What's close proximity? What's happening? What other residential development is happening in those areas? So that's kind of what we're excited. We just closed a deal in Port St. Lucie in September, and we're closing another one in Palm Bay in the Space Coast in December, just in about 2 to 3 weeks from now.
Very exciting stuff. So what gives you guys the biggest bang for your buck with these kind of properties? Where's the value add that typically really kind of makes all the difference?
Is really what's the upside in current rents, right? What's the upside in the actual producing income of the property, okay? The performance income of the property.
Yeah.
And we analyze where rents are today. Now, what's required for us to capitalize on the market, right? So if we went into a market like Port St. Lucie, where people are paying an average $5, $6 a month in rent, and the market's 21, 22, 23, what do we need? What type of work does a plaza need in order for us to bring the curb appeal of the plaza to attract those type of tenants? And then we run those numbers. Is it $10 to $15, $20, $30 per foot on CapEx? Are we renovating the facade, the parking lot, landscaping, lighting, roofing? What's really going to attract those credit rating tenants to come into the plaza? Now, once you land one or two of those, it'll be a lot easier to backfill some of the smaller units. So that's really our strategy. So that's kind of the numbers. And then obviously we're looking at, we heavily weigh on cost basis, right? What's the price per foot in market?
Yeah.
And what are we paying for it? Could we afford to put in all this CapEx and still have the numbers work for us, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the strategy we take when we approach every one of these deals.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, Shea, what do you do with the existing tenants when you're doing all of these renos and stuff like that? Like, are they grandfathered in? I mean, are their leases kind of bound in stone? Or are you trying to find places that might not even have valid leases and that sort of thing? Like, what do you do with the existing ones that are paying below average rents?
So it's a great question, because one of the things that we look into where you get a lot of value is what is the timeline of these leases, right? Obviously, if they're month to month, it's a great scenario to be in, right? Because you're able to either raise the rents or transition tenants, for new tenants.
Yeah.
Normally what we do is when we go into a plaza, if the plaza's producing income, we want to try to keep the current tenant base happy while we do all these renovations, right? So sometimes they know what's coming because we obviously bought the new plaza. There's a change of ownership. We're very professional in our transition where we go make our introductions. We actually put a lot of time and energy building relationships with the tenants. And then obviously in a great way, we communicate to them, listen, we're bringing value to the plaza. We have to, obviously there are going to be increase in expenses, which is going to result in an increase in rents. However, our objective is to drive more traffic to the plaza, which means more business for you. So you can afford those increase in rents. So the time being, we normally, if we're doing extensive renovations, we try to keep people to where they're at, right? Just month to month, while you're paying maybe a little bit of bumps, not so much, just to keep them being okay and tolerant as we do all these renovations. Then we have that conversation. Listen, we're going to be raising rents up to market.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing to the plaza. These are all the renovations, all the CapEx. Here's the renderings. Here's the architectural drawings. What we're doing to grow the curb appeal of the place. And I would say there's about a 50-50 so far, tenants that end up signing longer term leases at higher rents. And some of the tenants say they want to downsize and maybe move to a different area where there's, or maybe they weren't really tied to that location, whether it's an office type of business, right? They don't have to necessarily be in a retail. They can move to an office building. So, but everything that we do is done very, very professional, very courteous, in a way that's very respectful to the process.
And what are your long-term plans with these kind of properties? Like, what's the exit strategy and what's the time frame?
It's a great question. Every single one of our deals, we have what we call our investor partners, right? Our investors, instead of going out traditionally and raising LP money from a lot of, smaller checks from a large amount of people, we normally partner with individuals that really set the timeline for how they want this cycle, this investment to be, right? So some individuals, if they want this long term, some of these individuals are okay with it being a 3 to 4 year cycle, selling the property, maybe 1031 that money into another deal. But typically we run our deals on a 3 to 5 year cycle. That's when we underwrite all our deals, because it takes about year 1 and 2 just to stabilize the asset, right? Yeah. You're going in, you're doing your construction, you're marketing the units for rent, you're getting it leased up, and then you're either going for a refinance. Some of these deals we're buying all cash, right? Some of these deals we're doing a combination of cash and hard money. So once we have the property stabilized, we'll then go to a traditional bank, conventional bank, get conventional financing to refinance at up to higher valuation. And at that point, the investor could determine what they would like to do. We put a lot of that decision making on the investors that come in for each of these deals. Every property could be very different.
So are you typically working with 1 or 2 well-heeled investors per project, or like a small group per project?
Yeah, about 1 or 2. As of now, it's been traditionally about 1 or 2 investors come onto the deal. We're buying properties anywhere between $2 and $6 or $7 million. We're going to expand that to about $2 and $20 million. So retail center is between 15,000 and let's say 40,000 square feet. So that will fit that criteria. And then you're looking at equity size checks it could be anywhere between $2 and $6 million. And that usually is a combination of two or three guys that will come on those deals. Yeah. And we'll put together the operating agreements that will have all the stipulations and the terms and the expectations of the deal very clearly outlined for the investors.
So, Shea, what are you finding works best these days for finding these kind of strip mall properties?
You got to network with local brokers.
No.
I give all the credit to the realtors and the brokers who they go in and day out. Their job is to build rapport with commercial landlords all across their sector, their location that they focus on. We obviously have access to LoopNet and Crexi and CoStar, and that gives you data to who owns what. But the most important ROI is building relationships with the brokers, building trust, building relationship with them, conveying them that you can transact on deals. operating in good faith. And that's what we do. I mean, we built our reputation. I have a partner, Shaw Mackhouse, close friend of mine. We grew up together, known each other for 30 plus years. But building relationships with these brokers is key. Going out to those markets, lunch, coffee, checking out the properties, building communication, building group chats on WhatsApp, staying in touch, constantly staying in touch with our brokers. What's new in the market? What's coming out? So they see things that we don't necessarily see as operators, right?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. The other question I was going to ask you is, it sounds like a big key to success with this is, like you said, curb appeal, like bringing up the attractiveness of this center, bring it up to snuff so you can get current market rates for the units. I would imagine it's kind of a real win for you guys when you can get one of those anchor type tenants moving in. Do you guys focus on that, or do you focus more on the existing kind of tenant base that you've got, just getting more of them?
So we try to focus. So usually these retail centers, are laid out in the way that the tenants are mostly operating about no more than 20% of the property. And we want that strategically, right? We try not to have any one tenant occupy more than 20%, just so we can diversify our risk. And that's one of the challenges that you have in the big retail centers. If you have a big tenant that moves out, that's occupying 30% of your property, that's 30% of your income.
Yeah.
And that could take you there's far fewer of those tenants that are in the market constantly looking for a space.
Yeah.
So our strategy, take Port St. Lucie, for example, most of the units there are between 900 and 1,800 square feet. There's one large end cap unit that's about 4,000. And we can even shrink that to about 3,000. That would be perfect for like a fast food, restaurant bar. Take a Flanagan's, take a Flanagan's. And then once you rent out once we go for that credit rated, that name, that brand, it'll be a lot easier to start backfilling with the smaller spaces with like a barber shop or a hair salon or a nail place or a laundromat or mobile shop, T-Mobile.
Yeah.
Or one of the prepaid retailers like Boost Mobile or Cricket and so on and so forth. You're backfilling a lot of the spaces with other tenants that are going to really appreciate or capitalize on the other traffics, right? We like to have each of the tenants being co-independent of each other. They're feeding each other. People going to the restaurant bar are going to get their hair done at the barber shop, or then going to get their phones done at the Boost Mobile store. Or this could be a neighborhood locksmith, or one of the, be very creative in having a tenant mix that each one is feeding off one another.
Now, do you guys focus on that yourselves a lot, or do you focus on building relationships with these broker, lease agent type people for helping you out with?
So because we're in South Florida and our office is in South Florida, so any of our properties in South Florida, we really handle a lot of the leasing. It's also a very big in demand market. We put up ads on the properties. We have, signs for lease. We have Crexy, CoStar, LoopNet. When it comes to the other markets, we work with leasing agents that are leasing or tenant brokers, as they're also referred to, that know that area very well. These are individuals that spent a lot of time going to the shows, going to the retail shows like ICSC, and really developing relationships with tenant brokers that represent each of these brands and these retailers and franchises. So, we have someone that's focusing on Port St. Lucie. We have someone that's focusing the Space and Treasure Coast. And as we build out different pockets of Florida, we'll be developing relationships with those brokers as well.
Now that you've got a few of these properties under your belt, Shea, what have been some of the biggest learning lessons that you've come across so far?
The biggest piece is managing everything in-house. Okay. Managing everything in-house is very critical, especially when it comes to properties that you want to have full control over the full process, right? Even if you're going to be outsourcing leasing, you're controlling that process. You're not having a management company who's having a leasing broker. You want to know who the tenants are. You want to learn about the tenants. You want to learn about what's happening in the plaza. You want to be able to have, full grip of what's happening. We had experience with multifamily in Louisiana. That's, another conversation. could be part of this conversation, but some of our early on when we first started this, we partnered. We had friends of ours living out there. We partnered and we bought multifamily properties there. And one of the biggest learning curves was you got to be managing your own properties, especially in the beginning, especially as you're growing and scaling. You're able to keep all your expenses where they're at and lower. You're able to ensure that rents are being collected on time. You're able to make sure your income, you're monetizing, you're on top of your income. You're making sure that you're getting your rents that you need to get. You're reporting, you're taking control of all that. You're not reliant on other third-party managers that reconcile their books every 60 days. So it's some management companies are, I'm sure, they're the ones that do very well. Biggest learning curve for us personally was self-manage everything, right?
Got it.
Very important piece. Build relationships with brokers to find deals. And the second big, one of the biggest pieces, obviously putting ourselves out there, developing relationships with high net worth individuals that want to invest. So that's what
it's all about. Yeah. It's deal flow and capital flow. Those two need to go hand in hand for sure.
Yeah.
Shea, this has been great. Thank you very much for sharing some insights. Now, if some of our listeners or viewers would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
They could go to our website, vencoequities.com. vencoequities.com. I guess we could spell it out for them. VENNCO equities.com. You go on there, you can look at go scroll, see our story, see our portfolio, look at the partners, read our bios, and they can definitely reach out to me. There's also a link on there to my LinkedIn, and I'd love to connect with anyone that wants to invest here in South Florida.
Awesome, Shea. Well, thanks very much for being on the show.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, everybody, take care, and we will see you on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you've subscribed. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on the show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.